All right, today we are digging into a global energy surprise, something that really could change how we think about what's possible for a huge economy. We're talking about Brazil's 50% green revolution.
So let's just start with this one. Single number, 50%. Now this isn't just about electricity to power your lights. No, this is the share of a country's entire energy supply. We're talking cars, planes, factories, the whole shebang that comes from renewable sources.
So that leads to a pretty interesting question. Take a second and just think about it. Which major economy, a G20, continental-sized nation, has an energy mix that is already half renewable? Is it Germany? Maybe China? The US?
The answer is Brazil. And look, this isn't some back-of-the-napkin calculation. It's a confirmed number from a brand new official report that lays out exactly how they pulled this off.
So you might be asking, where exactly is this info coming from? Well, we're diving into the brand new 2025 National Energy Balance. This is a report that comes straight from Brazil's official energy research office. So yeah, this is pretty much the gold standard for the country's energy data.
And you don't have to take my word for how credible this is. The report itself says its purpose is to be a broad and systematic database. So in other words, this isn't some advocacy piece. This is the official, down-to-the-numbers accounting of energy for the entire nation.
Okay, so let's get into it. That 50% figure is huge. What's actually powering Brazil? What is going on in this unique energy mix?
First, let's just make sure we're all on the same page with the key term here, energy matrix. This is really important. It's not just the electricity grid. The energy matrix is the total amount of energy a country uses for everything. That's fuel in your car, power for giant factories, and of course, electricity for our homes. And here it is, visually, Brazil's energy matrix for 2024. It's an almost perfect 50-50 split. Half non-renewables like oil and natural gas, and half renewables. For an economy as massive as Brazil's, getting to this kind of balance, well, that's the truly remarkable part of the story.
And just to put that 50% number into perspective, the report itself points out how far ahead Brazil really is. This level of renewables in the total mix is, and I'm quoting here, much higher than that observed in the rest of the world and in OECD countries. So we're not talking about just a little bit higher, we're talking about a whole different ballpark.
So how in the world did Brazil get here? Now, a big part of their story has always been hydropower, but this new report points to some powerful new forces that are really accelerating this change. Let's see what's going on. Okay, check this out. This is one of the biggest stories inside the report. The absolutely explosive growth of wind and solar power in the electricity sector specifically. If you look back to 2007, they were barely even a blip on the radar. Today, they generate almost a quarter, 23.7% of all electricity in Brazil. That is just an incredibly fast transformation.
And it's not just about these giant utility-scale wind and solar farms. The report highlights another huge trend, the rise of what they call micro and mini distributed generation. So think rooftop solar panels on homes, on small businesses. In 2024, this small-scale power now makes up 5.6% of all electricity generated. It's like a grassroots energy revolution happening right alongside the big-time one.
So when you put those two trends together, that's the real story right now. You've got this massive build-out of huge wind and solar projects, and at the exact same time, you've got this explosion of rooftop solar on people's homes and businesses. These are the two engines that are completely transforming Brazil's power grid.
So let's zoom back out for a second and see how this amazing performance is actually turning Brazil into a global benchmark, all based on the new data in this report.
The report also looks at how Brazil is doing on the UN's Sustainable Development Goal for clean and affordable energy. And the conclusion is pretty clear. Brazil is now considered a positive benchmark. It's a real-world example of how strong progress can be made, especially while so many other nations are still facing some pretty major challenges.
Now, this clean energy mix has a really fascinating effect on the country's emissions. Because its energy is so green, that whole sector, the energy sector, is only responsible for about 20% of the country's total greenhouse gas emissions. The vast majority, almost 80%, actually comes from other places, like land use and agriculture.
So after going through all this data, what's the big takeaway here? What does the road ahead look like, not just for Brazil, but for everyone else too? Okay, let's just boil it all down. What we've seen is that Brazil's total energy supply is now an incredible 50% renewable. That's a world-leading number. It's built on a solid foundation of hydropower, sure, but it's being supercharged by this insane growth in wind and solar. And the most important part? This isn't just a guess. It's all confirmed by official data, which makes Brazil a powerful real-world case study for how a massive economy can actually make a green transition happen.
And really, that's what it all comes down to. This new data proves that a greener energy matrix isn't just some fantasy or a goal for a small country. It is possible, right now, for a huge economy. So the question really isn't if other nations can follow this path. The question is how.